Hi, it's Trish Brennan. I want to talk today about boundaries and the reality of being boundaried. Anyone that's listened to me talk about boundaries knows that it's a subject I train people in how to have an understanding of boundaries and how to um, come to being a boundaried person. And while it's a fantastic thing, I will absolutely shout it from the rooftops because it's such an important thing for us to do for ourselves. Um, but there's a side to it that I feel I'd like to share with people that isn't always the first thing you think about when you consider being boundaried. When you start to understand that you may have lacked personal boundaries, certainly I did, absolutely I did, for the longest period of my life. It's only really in the last few years that I've begun to be really boundaried. So I've got plenty of experience of not being, so I know the pain of it. But the offshoot of having boundaries, or there are many offshoots of having boundaries actually that are in the realm of the uncomfort zone, as I like to call it. And to not know those things or not talk about those things is potentially misleading because there is a humongous sense of excitement about being in a position where you can start to have boundaries because you've got a better understanding of what it actually means. I want to say but I don't like using the word but, so I'm going to use and. It's not all plain sailing. Obviously, there's the side to it that it's changing the way that you communicate with the outside world, with other people, especially in your closest relationships. And it's not easy to bring change into a relationship where the status quo has already been established, potentially over many, many years. So you are going to rock the boat. There are no two ways about it when you start to look about being boundaried. And that can be enough to scare somebody off, to never venture into the world of being boundaried. But please don't be put off because it's so worth the effort. You will be absolutely amazed by the power becoming boundaried can have over transforming your life and your relationships. So I'm wanting to bring in a little bit of the tough stuff about it. And that is, well, part of the tough stuff includes that becoming boundaried does not mean that you're suddenly going to get everything your own way. It's an open invitation to negotiation. It's grown-up communication. It's taking responsibility in a way that most of us have never done before because we simply weren't taught how to do it, especially women. We've very much been taught how to toe the line, not rock the boat, to be the people pleaser, to be the soother, and all of that. So if you're a mum, if you've got grown-up children and you suddenly start communicating in this new boundary language, it can be a bit, what happened to my mum? Where's she gone? And the same could be said of any relationship where somebody's known you as compliant, as somebody who goes along with the flow, who's always the first to capitulate and bend and let somebody else take the control of any decisions or any aspect of life. And that's something that we women especially become really expert at. So it can be a big culture shock, not just to the other person when you start to be boundaried, but it can have repercussions that we don't necessarily expect. For instance, let's say you have a job and a just over broke, as I like to call it, where you work for somebody else and you're being treated unfairly and you have enough discomfort around it and enough developing awareness about the need to change it and the desire to change it. Now, that's actually a really important thing. I want to say that again. You've got the desire to want to create the change, because it absolutely must have your desire. Because if you want an easy life, forget it. Don't bother with boundaries. But if you want a life of empowerment, of moving forward in a confident way, of feeling you're in charge of your life, of feeling you've got a powerful influence in your relationships, and that you're changing things in a way that feels good. Be aware that there are going to be some uncomfortable changes, and like any change is always uncomfortable at the beginning. So you've got this job and you're being treated unfairly. You're feeling uncomfortable enough to and determined enough, and you want to change it. You want to do something about it. So you give it some thought, what it is that you want, and you decide that you're going to speak up. Now, unless you've got the foundations in place that give you the confidence that you want when you go into this new you, this negotiating from a position of new power, you may well go in expecting things to certainly they're probably going to be uncomfortable. That might not always be the case, but you're going to probably go in expecting that if I speak up about what I want, then I'm going to get it. No, that's not always the case. You may do, but what you're actually effectively doing is opening up a negotiation. So you, in your power, are inviting the other person to step into theirs too. And not everybody wants to. Some people will run for the hills. So you might find that as you step up, you come to the table, that other people will shut you down or will push you away because you're becoming assertive. And most of us haven't been taught to be that way. And it can be intimidating if you haven't learned to be assertive yourself. But back to the job. If you're in a job, you've said, okay, I'm not happy with this. I work hard. I put lots of hours in. This is really what I would expect. You could potentially find yourself out of a job, worst case scenario. Because, again, employers are notorious for wanting somebody who'll go along with what their rules are. So you coming along and rocking the boat might well end up putting you out of a job. It might not, with better outcome and stronger, more grown-up people. And grown-up is a really important phrase to have in mind when you're talking about boundaries. When you do it, when other people do it, you're in grown-up land, and this is where the rubber hits the road, as they say. So you've got to be prepared for that. But you've also got to be prepared for the fact that being assertive and being expressed in your assertiveness might have negative effects, or maybe not negative, because if you are being abused at work and being put on and treated unfairly, and you make a noise about it, respectfully, always, the other party, your boss or whatever, might well think, you know what, there's plenty more people where you come from. I can get somebody easily, and they can. There are so many people looking for work, but you've decided your value is much better than they're giving you. That could be an outcome. So your job as a person stepping into your power and becoming boundaried is to know the risks and to weigh them up and decide for yourself how worth it is to you, how important it is to you. Some things will be more important than others. Some things you might be prepared to swallow. And unfortunately, so many of us do swallow crappy behaviour because we're nervous about being rejected, about being disliked, about losing our job, about a relationship ending. But you have to make an informed, wise decision around that. If I want a job where I'm treated fairly, why would this be good for me to stay here if they won't treat me that way? If I've made my case and I've shown my worth and I've been respectful, but I've come to the table and said, I'm not happy with this anymore, I'm not prepared to go along with it, and they won't meet you, you would have to ask yourself, do I want the job that badly that I won't say anything? Do I want this relationship that badly that I won't say anything? So it's a really important thing for you to realise if you're looking at boundaries and becoming a more assertive person. And God knows we all need that, especially when we're looking at the state the world is in right now. I don't think people realise that being boundaried, becoming boundaried, is the route to your sovereignty. And I can show you that. So I'm going to leave that with you to digest. If there's anything you'd like to comment and share in the conversation, please do, because it's a really engaging and important conversation. Brings up so much great gold nuggets. If you'd like to get some support with boundaries, then I would be absolutely delighted to talk with you about that. You can always PM me, or you can connect with me at connect@leadingedgecommunication.net. You can find out more details about my course, my mentoring, the Powerful Personal Boundaries coaching program, on the website, which is the W's leadingedgecommunication.net. But let me tell you this, there will be few things in your life that you will do that will change your life in such amazing ways if you're ready to do the hard work. And that's what I can help you with. So I'll leave that with you and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.